You're watching Maine Biz Sunday, Maine's business news source.
Welcome back. To say that the workplace has become even more stressful over the past year is an understatement. Economic downturns can take a huge toll on your most important business asset, the physical and emotional health of the wellness of your employees. Dr. David Hunnicutt, President of the Wellness Council of America, is with us today to discuss why an effective workplace wellness program is important to your bottom line, now more than ever. Dr. Hunnicutt, welcome. Glad you could be with us today.
Good morning.
I'm glad you could be there. You are in Maine. It's going to be a keynote speaker for the Wellness Council of Maine's symposium, the Workplace Wellness Leadership Symposium that's happening this month. So we appreciate you taking some time out to come speak with us.
My pleasure.
The Wellness Council of America, called WELCOA, is dedicated to improving the health and well-being of all working Americans. You're headquartered in Omaha, Nebraska, and you have a membership base of over 3,200 organizations. You became president of WELCOA in 1995, and you do a lot of consultations with over hundreds of organizations each year to help them link their health promotion objectives to their business outcomes. So that's clearly something we need to pay attention to.
Very good.
Wellness, workplace wellness seems to be a very broad kind of spectrum. They cover lots of areas all the way from physical health to emotional and mental well-being. Tell us what you focus on. What do you help businesses look at with their wellness programs?
Well, that's a good question. I think where we really start is we try to define wellness, at least initially, as the process of being aware of and actively working toward better health. So if you think about it, there's two parts of that definition to help people stay healthy. The first is to be aware of, and there are so many Americans who have no idea what their health status is, and as a result of that, they tend to overestimate their health status. So the first thing is we've got to help our employees to be aware of, and then the second is once they have a good understanding of their health status, then we need to get them to really embrace the idea of working to improve it or at least maintain it. So that's really how we define it for organizations.
Okay. Is workplace wellness, health and wellness, is that different than safety and health, workplace safety and health that's really kind of regulated by the federal and state governments and workplaces?
No, that's a good question. I think that workplace wellness has really been an evolution of the safety practices. In fact, I was looking at some of the photographs that were taken of the Empire State Building when it was built in the 30s, and you take a look at some of the safety procedures, translated, there weren't any, and you take a look at the accidents that happened, and I think as a result of that, and of the economic growth and the Industrial Revolution, there were so many people that got hurt and so many people that lost their lives, and it was so counterproductive for businesses that they began to really focus on creating safer workplaces. And over the course of the last 60 or 70 years, they've done a great job in doing that. But now the problems are, in addition to creating safe workplaces, so many of our problems are as a result of not getting enough physical activity, eating the wrong foods, smoking cigarettes, and drinking alcohol in high-risk ways. So the challenge is that we've got to figure out how to fold programs into those already existing initiatives.
Yeah, it sounds like it's an evolution of the workplace safety and health, and including the wellness piece now. We say that in business, if you can't measure it, it doesn't exist. So what kind of key indicators should CEOs and business owners be tracking to determine if they have an effective wellness program?
Yeah, that's really the essence here, and I think that's a great question. We always push the mantra that the business of business is business.
Yeah.
And if you want to develop wellness programs, you've got to keep the business principles and the business priorities the main thing. The key is, I think, in looking for outcomes is that we really push for, and two of them are initial outcomes, and they're indicators of great things that will happen. The first is participation, and the second is participant satisfaction. If you want to develop a great wellness program, the key is that you've got to get lots of people to participate, and so that has to be your first key metric.
Okay.
The second thing is if you have lots of people participating, you really want to make sure that you have high satisfaction rates of the people who are taking part in the program. If people participate and if people take part in the programs, especially when they're talking like walking programs or weight management programs or stress management programs, if you get lots of people participating, good participant satisfaction, and they stay in those programs over years, what you'll see is then you'll begin to see the third indicator of success, which is going to be a change in health status or a change in biometric measures, which ultimately leads to the gold standard of changes, which is going to be containment of cost and improvement of employee health.
Right.
But the thing is, and this is really a critical part, most employers want to move into this and see cost containment within the first 6 months. And it's really not a good idea to get into it that quickly because some of the measures become so radical at that point where employees feel strong-armed. So what we really push is participation and participant satisfaction in the first 12 to 24 months. Once you get those up, then you can begin to see changes in biometric measures and change in risk factor status, and then you're going to see very, very nice outcomes in terms of cost containment. And we have hundreds of companies across the United States who have done just that, and their programs have been living on for years now.
Well, let me ask you about that then, too, because those companies, obviously, and I was reading through your website, and you have these 7 C's, these benchmarks for that you recommend a business for establishing an effective wellness program. The first one is capture CEO support. Seems to me that that's critical. You got to have the guy or gal at the top who really is a true believer in this thing to be a champion for it. How do you do that?
Well, that's a good question. I think, really, you can't move forward unless you do have participation at the top. The key with having the participation at the top is really there's 3 portions of it. One is that you have to make the business case, and so senior level executives have to understand that wellness programs are not going to be the great diversion from what the business is all about, but rather they're going to be the great enhancement to what the business is all about, and that's going to ignite them in terms of employee engagement and seeing how their business can be better in the future. That's the first thing. The second thing is that obviously we have to push the fact that if you do this right, there is going to be a cost containment factor or return on investment factor. And in this day and age, that's an important thing. In fact, if you look at what the research is telling us, if you do a good job in using those benchmarks as an organization, what you'll find is that you'll have an average return on investment of about $3 for every dollar that you invested. If you do a really good job, the investment could be as much as $16 to $18 of return on investment for every dollar invested, and those are very real numbers. So that's the second piece that you have to make is the cost issue. The third argument that you have to make, and this is very real in this day and age, is that senior level executives in organizations have a moral responsibility to address the health and well-being of their employees. And the interesting thing is there's such pressure on to produce fiscally good outcomes right now that oftentimes when that happens is that we forget that employees are people. And we forget that, this is our human capital, and we forget that this is how the business is going to move forward. And so each and every executive has a moral responsibility, and we have to talk about this, in terms of organizations looking back over time to say, hey, look, this was your legacy. This is how you led this company. Is this what you want to have for, the rest of your life in terms of your legacy and how the company was running? So those are the things that we look for.
Thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate you taking the time. So if people want to learn more about the Wellness Council of America, they can go to wellco.org and link up with the services and programs provided right here in Maine. You can check out the Wellness Council of Maine website at thewellnesscouncilofmaine.org. We'll be right back.
Maine This Sunday is made possible in part by funding provided by the Finance Authority of Maine and the Maine Department of Economic and Community Development.